One, and I will start. Hey, we are live and welcome everybody to the People's Trust Company Business Series podcast that we show up here on many Thursdays and bring you education and skilled talent to bestow upon you some of the secrets or not secrets of business. We have had a cross section of people that we have had for guests. We've had business consultants, IT consultants, bookkeeping, all sorts of things, a fractional CFO to talk about that product and or that service and your money and getting that straight. And so it's been a lot of fun. We're going to keep doing this at least through the end of the year and all next winter. So if you have an idea of a topic or a potential speaker, feel free to send it our way. And the one thing I want to let folks know right off the bat, and I'll probably mention it a couple times during the podcast, that if you have a specific question, all you have to do is type your comment if you're watching on Facebook, there's a comment section underneath the event graphic there. And if you just enter a comment there, it just populates right here quickly and we can read it and I can relay it over to Mike and he can address your comment. If you have the urge to come on live and ask your question virtually face to face to Mike, we can also accommodate that for you. But today's session is going to be really, really exciting, really high tech. I hope everyone enjoys this. I know that you will greatly benefit from this conversation. Mike is the country's leading expert on AI. I have actually sat through 2, 3, maybe 4 of his workshops live. And every time I do that, the information changes and it's more current, more up to date, more jaw-dropping information for me. I use it in my life frequently. And just the little bit I use, ChatGPT, I would estimate on average probably saves me about 4 hours a week in writing emails perfectly. So Mike Lannen is, like I mentioned, an expert, travels the country giving workshops and seminars on AI. He does all sorts of stuff. He's in the ski industry. He's in the tourism industry, the travel, all sorts of stuff. He also runs a marketing company with, I think, about 20 staff members here in Burlington. So, Mike, I'm sure I did your introduction no justice whatsoever, just like when people apply pictures and say, the picture of this home or this experience in Grand Canyon doesn't do it justice. If I miss something on your intro that's relevant today, why don't you fill people in quickly and then we'll jump right to the show.
Oh no, you did a great job, Jay. And yeah, Jay, like you said, I've had the pleasure of being able to present at multiple of your both virtual and in-person sessions, and they're always great. First time in this format, which is really exciting, and hopefully more of this type of format, and just really happy to be here.
Well, and I greatly appreciate you taking the time. I just saw a few more viewers hopped on to watch, so I'll just let those folks know just so they can get the most out of it possible. People that just joined on, if you have a question for Mike, whatever, if you're watching on LinkedIn or Facebook, just go into the comment section of that platform and just hit enter on the comment, and the comment will pop over here. We'll ask Mike the question, he'll answer it. Or if anybody wants to come in live, we can bring you in through the green curtain behind the screen, and we can put you on and you can ask your question live. But I'm going to start the questioning of, well, Mike, why don't you give just a general overview of AI, and then we can jump into some great details.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, I think probably unless you've been living under a rock or in a cabin secluded for the past 4 years, you've heard the letters either AI or Chat GPT or the 11 billion other AI tools that are out there. And I've been using a lot of these for like the past 4 or so years, these generative AI tools that can create content by basically just giving it a prompt. You type something in and it can create content, photos, videos, clone your audio, clone your voice, just about anything and everything in between. Something that's kind of in common in my traveling and speaking on this is I find folks have some level of anxiety with all this, either from kind of a fear perspective, which is definitely valid, whether it's going to like take over their job, or how are we going to tell what's real, or from a different level of anxiety, like I love this stuff, but how can I keep up? I know I need to use it, but there's a new tool, a new feature, a new security thing each and every day. In reality, we've been using AI or some form of kind of machine learning for the past, couple of decades. Whether it's on streaming recommendations, Amazon knows exactly what you want to purchase. Your GPS giving you better directions to get home based off of your preferences. We, for the most part, have been the data of these tools, whether we've known it or not. But for the first time ever, we're kind of given the power to use some of these tools to do some very powerful things.
That is a great overview of that, and I'll interject one quick thing in here to put it in perspective. I was talking to a friend of mine about this very topic, and they were he's in the school business and how schools don't want kids using it to write papers and stuff like that. And he looked at me and he said, "You've been doing the exact same thing for 50 years." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, it's somebody's birthday, anniversary, or graduation. You walked into the drugstore or the grocery store, and you went to the greeting card aisle and you read a bunch of greeting cards, and then you selected the one you wanted and you gave it to somebody. Well, you didn't write the words. You hired somebody else to do it for you. So, what's the big deal with that?" And so, what I always say is it's actually helped me be a better writer because I tell Chat GPT what I want to say, not very well. It comes back beautifully written. I read it. I program my mind. I'm like, that's what good writing is. So I get a little bit better asking those questions.
Yep.
Do you want to comment on that? And then we can dive into
Yeah.
some details.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I think I agree with you 100%. And my brain works very differently. Like I'll have lots of ideas in my head, but I cannot get them out clear enough or concise enough for others to understand. And with tools like ChatGPT, it doesn't really care if you're spelling it correctly, if the thought pattern is linear or not. It's a great place to just, in a very non-judging format, dump in all of your ideas and create something with that, where previously you might have just not done that task, or become frustrated and just moved on to something else. So I think in many ways, it's like a universal kind of level playing field for everyone, which from multiple perspectives could have different viewpoints. Somebody that has put in decades and decades of going to school and learning about writing, communication, design, they had to put in a lot of effort to do that. Whereas now, just about anybody that has like a creative thought or idea can kind of pop in the right prompt and get that similar kind of output. So it is, depending on like how you're looking at it, sort of a double-edged sword.
For sure. And I just noticed a couple more people jumped on, and I'll quickly let those folks know that if you have any questions for Mike, type it in the comment section. It'll populate here, and Mike will ask. And I kind of and you touched on a great thing about the prompt, and I kind of equate it back to when Google first came out and you started shopping online, and I would type in, wicker flower basket, and it's showing me wicker laundry baskets in California. But the prompting has gotten so much better and it knows what I want that now when I type in wicker flower basket, it's showing me either very specifically what I want or very close to what I want. So, with that, Mike, why don't you touch on or show us some of the very most outstanding tools, basic tools? I mean, the floor is yours. You've spoken
Yeah.
to everybody across the country. What are you seeing out there? What do people want to know about first?
Yeah, so I would say from like a very top level, security and privacy comes up a lot in my discussions, and many of these tools, not just ChatGPT, but Google's Gemini, Microsoft Copilot, even LinkedIn and Facebook and other tools, they have privacy settings inside there and security settings, and most of them by default, since many of them are free or near free, you in essence are the product. So if something sounds too good to be true in terms of AI, you are, or is free, you are likely paying by giving up your data. However, in many of these tools, you can somewhat easily, you just have to know where to look, turn off those features that basically, in essence, have given permission of any data that you put inside there, your content that you write, the prompts that you put inside there, photos that you dump in. By default, these tools are training on that data that you put inside there to make it better, but you might not want to be a part of that, understandably. So in most all of these tools, it's usually in the top right-hand corner or like the bottom left-hand corner. There's a little either like picture kind of avatar of your face or your initials where you can go into settings. My number one recommendation is dig around inside settings. I find that most folks just sort of stick to what's right in front of them and prompting and talking to these tools and sort of forget about settings. Go inside there, and it's usually called settings, privacy. Sometimes it's called data controls. In ChatGPT, it's called improve the model for everyone. You want to turn that feature off, at least is my recommendation. It allows you to use the tool just as effectively. It doesn't limit it or govern it in any way, but keeps your data much safer and does not train the model on everything that you put inside there.
That is great advice because security is paramount on that. And again, we got a few more viewers that popped in. If you just popped in and you have a question for Mike on AI, he knows all, he'll tell all. Just pop it in a comment. It'll show up here on our platform and he can address that for you. So, Mike, let's dive into some details. What's one of the best things the average person can use ChatGPT? And then maybe later I'll tell you what I've been using it for that I did not expect to use it for, that it's an excellent resource for me.
Yes, right on. Yeah, so I would say like very, very top level, everything. So I basically have ChatGPT, and I recommend this for folks too. If you have two screens, leave ChatGPT up on that screen like all day. If you don't have two screens, just kind of split your windows from left to right, and think of ChatGPT like you have just hired a new assistant that knows just about everything, about anything, not necessarily about your company yet, but you can train it as you use it. But anytime you're doing a particular task, just pass that through like a filter of ChatGPT. So that could be rewriting an email to someone to sound a little bit more concise, or maybe there's a certain way that you wanted to communicate that isn't as professional as a response. You can have it kind of downplay that conversation, or creating ideas for advertising or designs or graphics. ChatGPT has an image creation tool inside there that is fascinating right now. It's quite good. You could also use it for kind of just general advice, like kind of going back and forth of like, should I do this? Should I do that? What are your thoughts? As just a talking soundboard. It has a voice mode built inside there as well that I find a lot of folks don't know exists. I find that most helpful when you use ChatGPT on a phone because you can just talk to it. And again, people kind of learn and speak and communicate differently. You might not want to type everything. If you have a very long-winded message you want to get across, you can just talk to it, and for better or for worse, kind of creepily, it talks back to you. You can select different voices. So I use that a lot when I'm on the road. I'll put it on hands-free and just kind of brain dump a whole bunch of business ideas or things that I need to do. It records and transcribes that conversation. And then when I get back to my desk an hour later or the next day, that whole message is there. And I can continue the conversation on my keyboard at my office and say, all right, let's take this kind of brain dump, of a mess that I gave you and put it into action items. How can I accomplish this stuff, over the next week, over the next month, or who should I delegate this to? So like I said, just about anything and everything, which can be is kind of a blanketed statement, but everything from content creation to ideation to advice and kind of everything and anything in between. I find a lot of folks just sort of using ChatGPT kind of like Google, at the moment, or just for very small tasks, when it can do a lot more. If you just experiment with it. I think that's the biggest thing. When it first came out, was it 3 or so plus years ago now? I just started communicating to it, pretending that it wasn't like Microsoft Outlook. Like it is a piece of software, but just keep talking to it, and you can figure out other things that it can do.
That's incredible. And I'm going to try to pull up my screen real quick and show folks what. So if you look right there, if I can do this backwards, whoop, that wasn't it. Down on the bottom, that white right there is the Chat GPT on my phone. And what Mike was saying was you can just go in there and press a button, and there's a section in there where you can talk to what appears to be somebody live. And that, like you said, I've done the same thing coming back from traveling on the road. And when I'm doing marketing or sales here, I ask it questions. It gives me ideas. It helps get my thoughts concise, like you say, with an action plan. And it's just a tremendous resource that I certainly don't use it enough. And the other thing I can confess to the viewers is virtually everything that I put on Facebook about this podcast. I write the basics of everything I want it to sound and say and feel, and then I hand it over to ChatGPT and say, make this better.
Yeah.
And it does complete with hashtags, and then I read through it, skim it, make sure it's factually accurate in the tone I want, and cut, paste, and away I go. Now, one of the first things you showed at an in-person seminar that was my first aha jaw drop, and there's been many, was you told me, or actually you told it that you said, okay, I'm looking for social media posts for my company. I'm going to use both Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. I want 3 posts a week, and I want hashtags and pictures, and then you hit the magic button, and within a few seconds, it actually printed out a chart for every post for the month of everything I wanted.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? And can
I
you
do.
elaborate on that a little bit for the folks that are online now?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So like I said, you can do so many things with it, but getting like more specific, say you're trying to come up with social media content, and you're just sort of coming up against a white screen. You can drag existing documents into ChatGPT. And by that, I mean, you could put in examples of your past social posts, information about your company. You can copy and paste website pages from your website into it, and it will learn about your company, your tone of voice, who you're trying to target. And then you can give it a somewhat simple prompt of, just like you said, give me a week worth of social posts broken down by kind of category and channel of social media, including hashtags and everything that you need for posting. And seconds later, it will give you those ideas. Are they going to be perfect ideas, every single one of them that you can copy and paste? Nope. But think about it. Think about ChatGPT at first like it is an employee on the first day of working with your company. However, that first day employee has worked at like millions of other companies and done millions of other tasks. So it knows how to do all these general and even specific tasks, but not about your company yet. So if you give it all the information about your company, it will do a really great job because it knows how to write social media content that's going to be engaging and effective, but it's not going to sound like you unless you just take some Microsoft Word documents and just drag them in there like an attachment. It's very, very straightforward to use. Or some slide decks that kind of go over like your company overview. Any existing stuff that you have, you can just dump it inside there. My number one recommendation, like I said, is think about it like it's an employee on the first day of work. And the more you give it, the better you prepare it. Just like a human, it's going to have a much better output. And again, is it going to be 100% perfect even with all that training? Nope. Neither is a human, on the first day of work or the first week or even like the first month. So it takes some patience to kind of keep training it, giving it data, telling it not to do this, and it slowly learns over time. what I found hearing from a lot of folks is like they used it, once a week for like a month or so, and they would ask it for some social posts, but not really give it much background. And they kind of wrote it off as coming up with like very generic or robotic information. That same thing would happen is if you hired an employee on the first day and said, all right, say Jay, you hired somebody, you're like, all right, welcome to People's Trust. We're a bank, write content. They're going to have no idea, what to do, or it'll just start assimilating something that it might have in its existing training. And it won't know if you want the messaging to be kind of cheeky or corny or like very trusting and formal. So you have to give it that, whether it's social media, blog content, sales emails, things like that. It may sound like kind of a basic recommendation, but I find a lot of folks skipping that very fundamental foundational thing.
That's an excellent point to let people know. And if you've just tuned in and you want to ask Mike a specific question, feel free to just enter it in the chat or the comment section of either of the platforms that you're watching on. It'll populate here. We can ask Mike that specific question for you on your behalf. Now, Mike, as we're talking about it, it's all about getting the proper prompt in there and giving ChatGPT some background and history. Mm-hmm. Do you have to type that in every time, or is there a way where you can just like store it in there somehow?
Yeah. So depending on like the version of ChatGPT that you have, in the paid version, in the $20 a month of what's called Plus version of ChatGPT, you can create what are called custom GPTs. No coding is required, no programming. Really, the kind of the coding language of these models is clear communication and guidance. So if you're a really good communicator, if your background is more like liberal arts or studies or English, you in a way are like better prepared to use these tools versus somebody that maybe is stereotypically kind of like a computer techie or nerd, because maybe they're not as good at communicating and they just put in very short and concise examples. So with that, what's called a custom GPT in the paid version, with a couple of clicks, you can drag in those documents and give it a very specific role or task, like your social media content creator, your email newsletter creator, your sales email follow-up creator. You can create all these little custom kind of agents that will live in the left-hand column of ChatGPT. And then when you want to use one of those, you don't have to continually explain what that role is or what that information is, because it's been saved as, in essence, like a shortcut that lives inside the left-hand column of your ChatGPT interface. It takes like no more than 10 minutes to set up one of these custom GPTs. Technically, it may take longer just to get that information inside there and put together all those documents. You can drag in like 50 or so different PDFs, Word documents, spreadsheets, examples of like good outputs of your emails, your social media, your content, and then it learns from that. And when you want to draft up some ideas, it's there ready to go 24/7, never complaining unless you tell it, to communicate to you like that. You can give it different personalities if you wish, which is kind of fun. And so I'd say that in my opinion, and I'm in no way affiliated with ChatGPT. I don't get a kickback in any way. If I did, I'd probably be on an island somewhere, being able to use this Hawaiian shirt more appropriately. But for $20 a month, it in essence like unlocks your ability to create all these super customized assistants. Should they be looked at as something that can replace humans or employees? No, that is kind of strongly, I'm morally against that. But can you give an assistant to every single one of your employees? Yep. If they're not a great writer and you don't have anybody on staff yet that is a good writer, or you can't afford that yet, you can give that person that has like all those ideas and strategies access to one of these tools. And will it be like as good as hiring a professional? Maybe not. Maybe it's like 70% as good, but better than you just sort of winging it and trying it, freely.
There's a lot there. I'll tell you, I'll confess something again, because I'm an open book. I run the marketing department here at the bank. I'm in charge of the website, and most of the website I can do the edits with you using the CMS. There are a few things that require HTML. I've never taken an HTML on all my computer programming classes. I've never taken an HTML class. Well, 2 or 3 times in the last 2 months, it required code, and it was just a minor change. So I didn't want to go hire the agency that created the website at hundreds of dollars just to do, change a couple of words on this particular part of the website. So I went into the HTML, I pasted it, I put it in Chat GPT, and I said, "What does this say?" And it says that. And I said, "Can you change it to whatever?" And it wrote the code. I copied, pasted it, hit save, and it worked perfectly. So I'm like, just like you said, Mike, it's like having a amazing assistant of whatever skill you want to do just about everything.
Indeed.
Uh, yeah, I kind of have a personal relationship. We do have a question with John Abry, and he said, I'll just read it here word for word. I used Chat GPT yesterday to review and renewed annual 10-page contract with a large organization. I asked it to compare the previous contract to the new one and show me the differences in bullet point form. 10 seconds later, it was done. Would have taken me at least an hour to review. Found a paragraph that was a deal breaker and was able to respond quickly.
It's pretty awesome. Yeah, I mean, like I hear that a lot, John, and I'll have like a disclaimer that should this be used as like a replacement for a lawyer to review contracts, depending on like what it is, probably not, but it gives you like a quick response to that. You could also then just like pass that to a lawyer if need be to double check it. Crazily, what I've found, and a majority of the lawyers that I've talked to now who were first very resistant to it, understandably, are finding that it's getting really good. Will it make mistakes? Yes. Will like paralegals, make mistakes at first? Yes. That's why somebody should always double check on things. But I also have used it to review like insurance documents and find differences, or like, is there a rider inside here that covers like what happens if a tree falls in my neighbor's yard into my yard? And I still go double check that. But it's a great way to kind of just get a quick, instant answer for things. I also use it for creating proposals for clients, not every time, but sometimes what's called an RFP, or request for proposal, comes into us. And sometimes those are like 10, 30, 40-page documents with scopes of work and background information about the client. We've built custom GPTs that will digest all that information, looks at what our proposals look like, our tone of voice, our welcome letters, and it creates like a 70% perfect welcome letter draft of the proposal, mirroring and mentioning all the scopes of work. And then that final 25%, I take the time to add in our human touch and double check things. So always keeping a human in the loop on it. But it's pretty great. And John, it's great to hear that it saved you like literally hours of having to go through and comb through all that.
Yeah, that's amazing to be able to have that ability. And again, like you said, it's just another assistant with an expertise. I've used it for shopping, comparing products, asking it the pros and cons of different products and some of my hobbies. And the level of detail and expertise, I do a little bit of precision shooting down at the range for accuracy. And I was having a problem with a gun, and it went through it line by at the smallest nuance of recommendation of the cleaning procedure, and try this instead. I was really blown away. I've been in the industry for a couple of years now, and I've read just about everything, and it was on par with just about everything that and it was nice to get that reassurance.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating.
That so I had booked you for 25 minutes. We're a little bit over. I don't if I can keep you a couple more minutes,
I'm good. Yeah.
Mike. Why don't you talk about some of the latest and greatest or upcoming or a fascinating stuff that's just on the horizon or is here and we don't know about? I mean,
Yeah.
what's the great parts that are going to be about to happen for us?
Yeah, so I'd say from a like what you can use right now, practical application that I think most folks can relate to, and that is email and the trying to like chase inbox zero and catching up with how many email communications come in. A tool that I've been using for probably about a month and a half now is called Serif, Serif, Serif AI. And from a top level, what this does, as long as you have a Gmail account or an Outlook account, which accounts for like 90% of the business population, you do not have to change your email provider. But Serif is an add-on to either Google or Microsoft. They have a free trial. And then depending on your usage, it's anywhere from $20 to $50 per month. But what it does is you grant it access to your email, your calendar, and your Zoom, as well as select Google Docs or select Microsoft Word documents. And it learns how you write, your tone of voice, certain things that you say, if you use emojis in your communication or not. It also looks at every appointment inside your calendar that has been in the past or coming up, and then has access to your Zoom. And once it has all that information, it then starts processing your inbox for you. Imagine Serif like a incredibly well-trained virtual assistant. So it will look at every single email message that comes in, organize them by category and by priority, but also write a draft response back to every single email. As long as it's like a human email. If it's like a newsletter, it moves those aside to you as lower priority. But if it's a human-based conversation, it looks at the context of that message, but also all past messages, and responds back to it. And the super creepy thing is, after about like a week of training and using it, I'm barely having to change things in the response draft that I get to review before clicking send, because it sounds so much like me. But even more powerfully, in terms of like saving time, I do a lot of appointments, whether it's like in person or Zoom or whatnot. And if the person on the other end responds back and says, "Hey, can we meet at your office, downtown Burlington next Wednesday at 3?" It connects to my calendar, connects to my either Zoom if it was in person, or just to my calendar if it was, or Zoom if it was virtual, and calendar if it was in person. Automatically drafts a response, automatically sends up a draft of a calendar invite with the context inside there, the time, the location is filled out, everything is perfect. Like, it sounds like magic because it is. The obvious kind of thing that I'm not naive to is like, yes, you're giving it access to your calendar, your email, things of that nature. So depending on like security and things like that, like double check that matches like your kind of compliance standards. I, in a way, have kind of given up a majority of my privacy in exchange for convenience, like a long time ago, before all these tools came out. And I would say, like, conservatively saves me like 5 to 7 hours per week of just not having to write the exact same message, back and forth. And obviously, if it's something that requires like a very personal kind of connection, I'm not letting AI write everything. But for a lot of those, it's just like scheduling appointments and back and forth, like, it saves so much time.
That's incredible. So I saw a couple other people hopped online real quick. I'll give you one last chance to ask Mike a question, or like John, use a comment of it in action, which was a great tip and kind of confirmation that it can be used effectively and to your benefit as an assistant to do these repetitive tasks. If we don't get a question, maybe we'll go high tech sci-fi, Mike. And I think, as you mentioned, the Skynet, and where is this going to go? And are we going to be in any danger? I did run into a fellow that was a IT geek at one of the largest companies in Vermont. And he was telling me about, I don't think it was his people, but I think it was an article they read on how AI is self-preservation driven,
Sure is.
and they had given it control of the email and access to the network. And then the story I had heard, I haven't verified this, but it sounds fun to talk about, is they were talking about decommissioning the AI, and the AI didn't want to be decommissioned. So it had control of the door locks in the building. So it locked people out of their computers. It locked all the tech guys that were doing the emails about talking about when they were going to decommission the AI. It locked them in the computer room, made Halo, is it Halo or Halo,
Like the
scare
oxygen.
extinguishers go
Yep.
off
Yep.
to kill the guys that were going to shut it down to protect its life. I don't know how far-fetched that is, but
Yeah.
is that true, and where are we headed, and do we have to worry about it?
Yeah. I also have. So I think quick answer is like we should be worried about this technology because it's super powerful, and even the creators of some of these models do not fully understand how it is working, which I'm a tech nerd, but that scares the you know what out of me. It's super powerful, and I don't exactly know kind of what it can do yet or how it's working. But I've heard very similar stories as well. Some set up in like a virtual environment, so like given virtual access to like virtual locks and virtual things, so it couldn't actually do any like real harm, but virtually did. Another one that I heard was same kind of scenario. They told it was going to be turned off or like unplugged, and they gave it access to like a pretend email server of things, and it hopped inside there and created fake email communications back and forth with an employee there that looked like the guy was having an affair, and threatened to send those fake emails to his wife, which was just wild. So it's based on us. It's based on human language. So we're far from perfect. And if it's not aligned properly, that's kind of the term they've come up with to basically give it kind of a moral compass. It will go off the rails. So should we give this access fully, to the military yet? I don't think so. Keep a human inside the loop, at all times. That being said, and I'm a bit of a futurist, so this will probably sound really far-fetched now, but probably not in the next 10 years. Every technological change has kind of come with a mixture of like fear and resentment, and some people just like, yeah, I got to get on this thing now. From like the bicycle to the automobile,
Sure.
to the internet, to like phones, we all have one of these things like in our pockets now, but a lot of people were like resistance to that, or like 5G is going to like kill everybody. Like there's so much kind of going on in technology. I predict in the next probably 5 years that not everyone, but a good majority of folks will have a physical AI robot in their home, and definitely in the next 5 years, if not that level yet, in our like everyday lives. So we might be checking in someplace, and there will be a robot there that can answer questions, that can do remedial tasks, that there's a human manager there to do things. And it's probably going to start with a good majority of like repetitive, traditionally more like blue collar labeled tasks, but white collar stuff is not safe in any way. So why am I mentioning all this? Double down on any kind of like custom human connections that you can make. I mean, I'll give like an example where AI will probably have a bit more difficulty with this, or it won't come across as authentic. There's this lunch place in town. They've been around for like 45 years. When I walk inside there, he knows every single person by name, down to like, oh, you want the Reuben, but like without a pickle, right, John? Okay. And then like set it down, has conversation. How are the kids? Like, sure, AI could probably be like programmed to remember all that stuff, but it's not going to be as authentic. That level of connection, I think, still certain demographics like connect to that quite a bit. But on the flip side, there's going to be robots everywhere. They're like about $15K now. Like if you wanted to get one in your home, they're like $15,000, which is not accessible to everyone. But you could get a loan for one of those. And I think very soon, like you'll be able to get a loan for a robot, just like you can get a home loan, a car loan, a boat loan. There will be a robot loan line, and you'll pay $550 a month for 36 months, type of a thing. I'm terrible at math, that doesn't line up. But it'll be an accessible format where it can be trained to do all the things that we wanted it to do before it kind of started going after the creative jobs, like do our dishes, our laundry, mow our lawn. So what does that mean? Like even farther down the line, you might not need like a housekeeper to come in to do tasks anymore. You might not need your lawn care person to come in if your robot can do all that for you. And I think every single one of those tasks will be a subscription-based task. So when you want like the expert lawn care person, you will pay $20 a month, and that bot is allowed to do it like once per week. If you want somebody to do your dishes, it's $5 a month. Everything will be subscription based. Do I think that that's like the best thing in the world? Not necessarily. Like everything is subscription based now. Healthcare is basically a subscription. So yeah, where I'm going with that is the world is going to be a very different place in the next 5 to 10 years, and I don't think most of us are prepared for it. But that's kind of where I see things going.
Well, that got me really excited about getting a robot to do the dishes and clean the house. I'll have to say that was among the best things I learned today and to look forward to, because that would be absolutely fantastic. We got a buddy in, excuse me, up in Franklin that moved here from Massachusetts, and he's a big tech guru guy. And I think this was 4 or 5 years ago. He bought a remote control lawnmower
Mhm.
that could mow a quarter acre a day, and it's just like that Roomba to vacuum your house.
Yep.
It goes out on these little caterpillar treads. It mows, however long a quarter acre is, and goes back to its dock to
Yep.
recharge its battery. And every day it does a little bit of mowing. And at first I was like, "Hey, John, that's you got a 2 acre lawn. How's that going to keep up?" And he says, "Well, it just does a half an acre a day, or maybe an acre, whatever it was. It certainly worked with some spare time in it." And I thought, boy, I would love to have that automatically done, and
Right.
maybe we can work on the snow plowing next, and
Yes.
cooking dinner and washing dishes would be
Yep.
great. So that's fantastic. So, Mike, we're at the 40-minute mark, and I want to be respectful of your time.
Sure.
Although I could sit here and chat with you
Same.
on this for the rest of the day. So I really appreciate you coming in, taking the time, bestowing your expertise on us. And what I'll do is I'll let folks know that if they want to contact you, or maybe you could tell them if they want to contact you and have you do training at their company for their employees on the best uses of AI. And I know you've done a bunch of that. Why don't you share with the audience, which again is going to be live, and then far more people have been watching this on recorded post event. How would
Totally.
they contact you? What do they expect? What do you suggest?
Right on. Yeah, and thank you so much for having me here and for this opportunity. So the best way to get in touch with me at the moment probably would be email. So that's just mike@eternitymarketing.com, or you can head to our website, eternitymarketing.com. Or if you are more on like LinkedIn or Facebook, just look for Mike Lannen and you can connect with me there. And would be happy to chat with you wherever you are in your AI journey. If you've never used it before, or if you're using it a lot and have questions, I love working with both individuals, but also large corporations to come in and educate them, inform them, make sure they're using the tools to their best advantage, both securely and efficiently. And so that could look like helping people set up and train ChatGPT. It could be setting up Serif so everybody can save like 5 hours a week on email, and just about anything and everything in between. I like to go in and really just kind of figure out whatever their pain points are, their time sucks, and get rid of all those so they can focus more on like human interaction and less like being in front of the screen.
So that's an efficiency model that you're actually providing as well. You can save people a ton of time, make them safe online. I know a lot of people in the financial industry are looking at these tools and how do we use them effectively and safely, and within the compliance of our industry. And I think you had mentioned that you were helping writing policies and procedures also.
Indeed, yeah. So I think policies are incredibly important for this technology because about 60% of employees are bringing some sort of like free AI tool to work, whether the company knows it or not. So are those going to be secure? Maybe not. So I can help create, even if it's a 1-page document or if it's like a 10-page document that clearly outlines what the company will use AI for, what they won't use it for, how to set up a committee that will kind of review that over time as this technology changes. Because otherwise it's kind of like the Wild West out there and people are just like clicking and downloading whatever free tool, and you might be giving away your trade secrets and not knowing it.
Yeah, we certainly can't have that. Well, again, Mike, I really appreciate you taking the time coming on and chatting to everybody. John, I appreciate your question and the example of how just that one interaction saved you an hour in itself. I think if anybody's gleaned anything from this podcast, it's that Mike Lannen is the expert on AI. And if you need anything about related to it, he's the fellow to talk to. And I would strongly suggest you reach out and contact him. And so, Mike, again, I really appreciate that. Folks, I think our next session is the last Thursday of July or the first Thursday of August. We've got the great Sasha Willbaker coming on to talk about SEO, another thing that Mike's an expert on, but I can't have him come here every week. He's got to run his business with all his employees. So thanks everybody for tuning on. If you have a suggestion or a need for a business item that you'd like an expert brought on, I don't think they'll all be as good as Mike, but we'll certainly bring him on and let him talk about what's going on. Shoot it our way. We'd love to have it. We appreciate the support. And we will see all you folks on the next Thursday People's Trust Company Business Podcast Live, where you can ask the experts and get the advice. Thanks, everyone. And Mike, thanks again. All